Nerdentials podcast, starring your hosts, Joe Tweedy, Matthew Johnson, Nick Thomas, and Lynn Dudgeon. Welcome to Nerdentials, your weekly dose of the nerdy essentials covering film, TV, video games, and comic books. I'm your host, Joe Tweeden, and accompanying me this evening, this night of nerdy talk, is my co-host, Lynn Dudgeon.
Hey-o.
What is up, sir?
Not a damn thing.
Yeah, just off air we were talking about how much you've been freaking working.
Yeah. Hopefully it'll see a good paycheck for Toledo, you know?
Yeah, I hope so. Hashtag code name so our kids don't know where we're really going. Hint to our listeners and viewers, we're going a little south of California, somewhere near Anaheim. Wink, wink. It'll be fun.
Yeah.
It'll be fun.
It'll be a great way to stay in shape.
Oh, definitely. Last time we went, dude, each day we did like 20,000 steps. I looked at the old pedometer, man. Whew. But that's what theme parks filled with magic will induce at times.
That Pokemon Go cravings.
I definitely, especially with I don't pretend to stay in the know, but I know there's been a handful of updates for the month of October, and I'm sure there'll be an update coming in December. So pretty cool stuff. If you guys are Pokemon Go fans, go check it out. So anyway, looking forward to that, sir. That'll be fun. But guys, tonight, as you can probably see or hear, we are short a couple nerds. So in grand fashion, me and Lynn here usually have pretty good flow. It's not going to be I guess I shouldn't promise anything, but it's typically not going to be a 2-hour plus podcast like it usually is when there are 4 voices. You guys can expect a lighter episode tonight, not as many things to review because we are missing a couple guys. So shout out to Matthew and Nicholas. Guys, we miss you tonight. Sorry you couldn't be involved. On a side note, Matthew has a very specific reason he can't be involved. He is celebrating a anniversary with his wife. So he is out on the coast, the West Coast, somewhere, hanging out with family, or his wife at least. So that's cool.
You know how me and mine celebrate ours?
How do you? Lighting it up?
No, we both forget until the day after.
Dude, for the first time, no joke, dude. For the first time in 8 years, I try to be the romantic in our marriage, but to be honest, I think Amy appreciates those things when they happen, but she doesn't ever expect them. She's not a super romantic individual, and so that kind of helps me out a little bit. But at the same time, I'm the kind of guy that likes to do special things, and that's what happened this year. October 1st was actually our eighth year wedding anniversary, and literally the day of, I even thought about it the day before, and then the day of came. I went to work, I got home, and then she briefly brought it up, and I was like, I was like, oh my god. But not like I was like super upset. It was just, and then she chuckled about it, and she's like, yeah, that's how romantic we are. Don't even remember until after it's come, much in your case. But we still try to go and do fun things, throughout the year. So it is what it is. Next year, or at least on our 10-year, got to do something a little more special. You know what I mean? Milestones, man, milestones. But anyway, guys, we do have topics to talk about, dear listeners and viewers. Sorry, we're just having a little mild conversation. It's just Me and Lynn tonight. I gotta say this is just the two of us.
Just the two of us.
Yeah, there it is.
Good old song.
But right up front, just gonna do a little quick housekeeping, and then we'll jump right into the news. So, guys, uh, if you're listening on podcast form, or if you're not and you'd like to hear just the audio, we are in many places where podcasts are found, and primarily you can find us on Apple iTunes, Stitcher Radio, or the magnificent Spotify. Uh, Longtime listeners, you know that we've haven't been in too many locations up until now. Now we're in more places than ever. Uh, Additionally, if you guys want to see our ugly mugs, or I mean, I personally think Lynn's a little handsome. Someone I'm not ashamed to say that.
Uh,
Um, or at the very least, the crazy shenanigans that happen on screen. Because guys, there are things that happen between us that you might not hear in audio form, but you will definitely see. If you guys simply go to youtube.com/c/nerdentials or just look up Nerdentials, you'll find us. But aside from the podcast, guys, I'm just gonna quickly, shamelessly plug a few quick things. We do a lot of gameplay video stuff. We do a lot of reviews on movies and TV. We do movie trailer reactions and a plethora of other things that cover the scope of nerdy, geeky pop culture. And all those things.
cornucopia of
A
things.
cornucopia. Yeah. And all those things, guys, if you just want to keep it real nice and simple, just go to nerdentialsmedia.com.
.com.
.com. That's right, guys. That's where you will find everything we do if you ever want to check out other things. And it's also easy to get a hold of us. We are on social media as well, but all the social media links are also on that webpage. Really, it's a hub for geeks, nerds, and gamers. Now that that's out of the way, though, sir, I think it's time to jump in to our expected segment at the beginning of every show, the weekly dose. Guys, welcome to the weekly dose. This is Nerdentials podcast number 72, and we're ebbing ever closer to the last week of October at the time of this recording.
Oh, yeah.
We do have some spooky topics to cover next week, which will, I think, land pretty close to Halloween. It's the 19th today, as of this recording, and I hope to have this episode up Monday. So that is the goal. Weekly releases, guys. We're getting ever closer to maintaining that.
Yeah.
Yeah. First topic up for bid. I wanted to throw this out there, Lynn. I thought it was very cute with how Sony has been pushing out their information regarding the new PlayStation console. First off, this last year, they were absent from E3. And for crying out loud, they didn't even have a PlayStation X conference. What is it called? They have a secondary solo show that's separate from E3.
They still do their PlayStation Underground.
I'm sure, but there was an event that specific that's similar to E3, but it's all focused on them, and I forget what it's called. But forgive me, dear listeners.
They didn't do that the PlayStation Expo like they normally do, or like what they did the past couple years.
Yeah, that is definitely what I am thinking of. But so they kind of were absent from all of those things, and I think they're just kind of working their way towards to kind of, I don't know, they're doing a weird strategy this year. And it could be a lack of titles. They didn't have a lot to showcase for E3, so they didn't want to spend the money because it is very expensive to rent out a booth at E3. Several grand in the hundreds, especially for the big guys.
I think what their goal was to do kind of what like Nintendo's doing, where they have
Nintendo Direct. Yeah.
Yeah. I think they're moving over to that.
I think they want to. You're right.
And
I think
they don't
sorry.
want to be they don't want to be lumped in with all the developers, and then like Xbox and Sony and now Microsoft with the Stadia and stuff. And
But a little insider info, Mr. Lynn, that I have heard as a possible reasoning behind it, um, is the messaging. The messaging
yeah,
can be flawed in a live setting. Uh, we know this from previous E3s. I think the year before last, Sony had some pretty awkward, artistic, waterfall-based song and dance performances,
yeah,
leading to some of their announcements. And I think through some of those past years, the messaging is not always in their control, especially when you get live reaction from people.
yeah,
And Nintendo has taken a very bold direction in doing their directs where it's scripted, it's all pre-planned, it's a solid 30-40 minute presentation, and you can go online and watch it at your leisure. And that way they control the messaging. Like how they want you to perceive their new announcements, they control it because they don't have to worry about live reaction.
exactly.
Um, and so I think
And,
maybe Sony
and
not having the massive list of releases they had the year before wanted to have a more controlled setting of how they release this info.
yeah, and it won't end up like BlizzCon this year.
Yeah, that's some next level embarrassing stuff, dude. I was shocked to see some of that stuff. Um, But anyway, back on track. Just a few months back, through an exclusive interview from the magazine Wired, they released all their like spec data for the new PlayStation, uh, fifth PlayStation generation to basically through a kind of an old hat form of media now where everything is found online. They deliver their stuff exclusively through a magazine, which to be fair, they do have an online presence. Wired does have a website where this article could also be found, but it was exclusive to basically a magazine outlet, which is very unique. Um, and then this one, very, let me see if I can read what the beginning was. It says, um, okay, I won't worry go into too much about how yeah, it was back in April, man. Wired broke the story back in April about
Oh yeah, okay, no,
the
yeah,
the new
I know
details.
which article you're talking about,
Yeah,
and I actually got a full breakdown on it too.
yeah, like right, well, yeah, so um
The one thing that I got from that article, and if PlayStation actually incorporates it to where it works properly, I'm super excited for ray tracing.
now it's fantastic that they support it, but I think the bigger hope slash concern is to see developers like truly utilize this feature because their console and also they're saying it's not a graphical hack. They said that this is ray tracing is going to be supported from the hardware side of it, so
Yeah,
it's kind of like native 4K. We're not talking about upscaling, we're talking about true raw power when it comes to this ray tracing.
yeah,
So that's exciting. The other thing that they point out, because we haven't really talked about it on our podcast about some of the stats that were coming out for this, but Sony is
the
developed a solid state drive that is
yes,
uniquely designed to make use of all the GPU and CPU within the system. And they showcase an example of loading quick travel in the Spider-Man video game, where it would take upwards of 20 plus seconds for a normal load in fast travel, and they knocked it down with the solid state drive to like under like few seconds, eight
yeah.
seconds or under.
They said certain areas, certain storyline or like campaign missions would load in less than 5.
Yeah, and so and Microsoft has listed off similar things, but not nothing super specific, and so I'm curious how similar it will stack up against what Sony is putting out
Well,
there,
and then they also stated in there that they were going to support 8K, but
Oh man, there's a
that's
lot of articles about
too
that.
too gimmicky, and I don't.
Well, there's a difference between supporting it and viability for that support. Because you can claim that we can push 8K across 20 screens, but do we have 8K screens out there that are being mass produced that the public readily has available?
Yeah,
It's just not in the scope of the general public yet. So
yeah,
it it's a nice little feature to slap across a box for marketing reasons, but
yeah.
it's there's not a lot of weight behind it yet.
No, it's
And it's only going to be and 4K itself was a gimmick initially, and to be honest, it's only the human eye is only going to like truly experience 4K on massive screens. Like you're only going to legitimately see a difference. Let's say on an 80-inch big screen TV, if you go side by side and one's 1080 and one's 4K, yeah, that 4K is going to be sharper on an 80-inch screen compared to a 1080 on an 80-inch screen. But when you get down to like my 27-inch monitor on the computer I'm using right now is technically 4K, but stacked up next to my 42-inch LCD that promotes 1080, I'm not going to see a dramatic difference, at least when watching a movie.
yeah,
Resolution wise, yeah, I can get a lot more text in smaller areas. I can get a lot more icons on my screen. But if we're just going picture for picture with video games and movies, the eye is not going to define a lot of that 4K. They're not going to benefit a lot from that 4K, let alone 8K.
exactly.
And dude, aside from like the 8K spectacle, they have stated that the PS5 will use 100 gigabyte optical discs going forward, inserted into an optical drive that doubles as a 4K Blu-ray player. And see, that's Sony being Sony. This kind of feels a little ironic that the last gen didn't push 4K optical drives at all, like to which is kind of weird, but at the same time, it's kind of irrelevant. But Microsoft, as early as the Xbox One S, which was the slim upgraded version from the Xbox One,
Yep.
was the first console in this generation of consoles that actually supported a 4K optical drive. And then Xbox One X, which was just a year ago now, supported complete native 4K for games. Like a lot of games didn't have 4K implemented, but they've updated a lot of the games to push 4K textures and stuff now. So it's becoming the standard, and by next fall, when these consoles launch, 4K will be the standard for what games push. Um, but guys, I guess to bring it back to that was a bit of side chatter we haven't really had about the specs for the new PlayStation, but I thought it was kind of funny that Sony officially came out and announced the official name of the console, because this whole time it was unconfirmed, and tradition with Microsoft is they use code names for all their consoles, with this next gen one coming out being the Scarlet. That's not going to be its name. We don't know what it's going to be yet. And Xbox One was codenamed the Scorpio, and that obviously was not, and it did not. It ended up being Xbox One X, not Scorpio. So, guys, Sony came out and said, yes, we are calling it the PlayStation 5.
Whoa, shocker.
Mind blown, dude.
Yeah.
I will say this though. What happens in 20 years from now? Are they going to keep going by the numbers? Are we going to see a PlayStation 20, and at that point
No, it ends
at,
at 19.
oh, it ends at 19?
Yeah, haven't you seen the trailer for it?
No, I don't think so.
It's worth the Google.
All right, guys. Well, you heard it here first, or secondhand, anyway. I'll be checking it out after our recording tonight.
Hey, did you have any other gaming bits you wanted to bring up while we're on the topic of PlayStation?
Um,
Or were your notes pretty much ending gaming there? Because I do have one topic for gaming that I would like to bring up real quick and
is it
see what
is it
thoughts.
news based or just a opinion discussion?
It is news based.
All right, then I will pass it off to you, sir, because yeah. Guys, real quick, a last minute entry into the nerd conversation. Mr. Nick Thomas. Sir, how are you?
I'm back. Oh, I'm good. How about you?
Fantastic, sir. Thank you for joining us. Guys, sometimes we can't always coordinate things, personal things come up, but Nick was able to join us, and we didn't get that far into the episode, so great to have you, sir. We are,
I was Bigfoot hunting. I apologize.
jeez, dude, do you have anything to show for it?
No.
Yeah.
Oh,
Very depressing, sir. I was missing you, and now I just wish you were gone. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
come back, come camp out in my front lawn.
I know, right? Last year you sent me that picture. Holy crap.
Yeah, like clockwork, 4 p.m. every day.
This is a little inside baseball talk. What's going on?
Oh,
What's up with your
he's got a
yard?
massive buck sitting in his front yard every day. Might just
Oh,
have to get a
yes.
tag and go visit Lynn for a week.
Yeah,
Fair enough. I get it now.
Dude, that thing has some awesome amount of meat. I could divide it in half and still feed my family
right.
for a month.
Oh man, and he came through this year, and he's only freaking his upper thigh is about this big around.
Whew.
He's huge now. He's packed on some weight. Anyway,
Well, anyway, let's jump back into the news while we were talking, and I was just passing it off to Lynn. He had a topic he wanted to bring up. So go ahead, Lynn. What
yeah,
is this?
it was while we were on the topic of gaming. I was one of the few nights I've had off this week. I caught a trailer for a game that makes me want to invest into another game console.
Oh dear.
Right? One of the few that I don't own. But it's for the
What?
Oculus. It's for the Oculus,
Oh.
and the game is called Walking Dead Saints or Sinners and Saints.
I think I've seen a little bit about this. Tell me about it.
Dude, so the trailer starts off. It's a Asian lady packing a backpack for her daughter, which has like a little unicorn on it. And then you watch the daughter watching a news story on the television in the kitchen counter. And then as the trailer progresses, the zombie outbreak occurs. A firefighter breaks in through the back door because the mom and daughter have already run off. He grabs the backpack because the daughter dropped it to run away from the zombies. And then he takes off, and a short haired blonde woman attacks the firefighter and ends up taking the backpack from him. And then she starts walking down the road after she takes the backpack from him. And then she turns and looks over her shoulder and she starts making these gargling noises. And the blonde haired lady is slowly turning into a zombie. And then all of a sudden, just off screen, an axe comes into the shot and like melon balls the blonde haired lady. And it's the little Asian girl from the beginning of the trailer whose mom was packing her backpack. And
Oh damn.
she picks up the backpack and throws it over her shoulder and like continues on down the street. And I don't know, it
And this is
I
a VR experience, huh?
yeah, and it looks like it's gonna be a first person like survival horror type thing, and you've got to figure out how to make it through. I don't know. I really haven't seen much more as far as storyline goes, if there is one, or if it's just you need to survive. And just the fact that it's on the Oculus, the immersion and everything, it's always been something that I've always been excited for. And
Now,
there's been a few games that I've played on the Oculus and they were just amazing. And looking at this and the graphics quality of it, it just looks stunning.
now, answer me this, Lynn. When you say a console, are we referring to like the new or soon to be like portable Oculus version, or are we talking you need to get a PC?
It either I might dive into a PC, but there's also the Rift option. It doesn't necessarily have the 4K that
A PC would push.
the PC version could push out, but still the immersion's what I'm going for. And you know,
Yeah,
it
that's cool.
like I said, playing it over at Robin's dad's place, he has both the PC version and the Rift version. And he had both boys, both Lincoln and Emmett, playing a game together. One was on his TV and one was on his computer, and all I'm saying is it looks killer.
I got good news for you. I'm looking at the requirements for it. It will be released specifically for Oculus and released on Steam. System requirements for it will be Windows 10. You can actually deal with an Intel i5, 8 gigabits of RAM, as long as you have a 1060 GTX or a 480 RX AMD. So it's not crazy intensive, but that's minimum. So you can go up from that and get better quality. So you won't need a crazy good computer to play it. You could still enjoy it, but if you want that full immersion, I would recommend something better.
Yeah, because
the particle effects and everything for the fire.
Well, and the problem with VR and the barrier between true immersion and what we kind of currently have with things like the PSVR and stuff is that it's that whole frame rate issue. Like you need to get 60 to 120 frames for like the reality immersion to hit. And to avoid optical sickness, because the thing that people suffer from not being able to play for more than an hour or two at a time is because the frame rate isn't as fast as it should be, and that causes strain to our eyes, especially in a VR experience.
And VR headsets that are supported by it, if you don't have the money for an Oculus, it is supported by the HTC Vive, which is a lot cheaper, but still a very good VR headset.
Yeah, it's like half the cost of an Oculus.
Mm-hmm.
But I would love to go full blown Oculus.
I have a second gen Oculus set for my computer. But
dude,
that's the way to go right there.
I wish your PC were more portable, because next time you came over, that'd be awesome. Or I just gotta come down there.
Maybe next time that I'm actually visiting Joe, I could catch you when I'm there.
Well, hopefully we can just kind of put it together so when you're visiting, I could visit. We could all do our thing, kick it.
Our thing. We have a thing, Nick.
Damn right, we have a thing.
Ooh.
And it's well, we'll get into that later.
It's real.
We get
So
squirrely real. Fridays.
Fridays.
Yeah.
Only days that end in Y.
Okay,
perfect.
Fair enough.
So perfect.
I'll take it.
Oh, but I didn't see this part. It also is covered by the Valve Index. I haven't heard of that headset, so I don't know what that is.
The gimmicky Valve VR headset.
Something to look into at some point.
Well, I was just letting you know. So
it you know, it'd be nice to actually break down all the headsets.
It would.
Well, no, that would be no. it would be nice to actually break down all the headsets and put the specs up for comparison on the website. Because as of right now, I have the PlayStation VR and the Oculus to go off of. And like as far as experience goes with the two, but I don't know what the HTC looks like or the Valve headset looks like. You know what I mean? And I do have to say, being a longtime Sony fan, the PlayStation VR headset compared to the Oculus is very choppy and does make you a whole lot sicker than the Oculus does.
Yeah. No, that
I-
first gen Oculus, when I tried that, it was something to get used to. I'm not gonna lie. I started playing it with what was that game? Uh, Elite Dangerous. Oh, dude.
Yes, I'm familiar with that one. Yeah.
You drop out of what they call frame drive or frame shift, and you get pulled out, and it starts doing this thing where it like kicks your view going like this rapidly, and it does this whole spin, and then you pop right in front of the sun, and it's just like, whoa.
right?
Woof.
Or like the VR, the PlayStation headset, if you walk out of the play area, like you'll be walking one direction and then all of a sudden you're face backwards and then you kick side to side real quick until you step back into the play area.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's some kinks on some of those things to be worked out for sure.
Oh yeah, I'm just waiting for full dive.
They're all works in progress. Well, VR is a work. PlayStation VR is a work in progress.
Yeah, I mean, who knows what they'll come out with during next gen with the PS5. I mean, hey,
kicking it back to the PS5.
Yeah, we came full circle on the gaming news.
The PSVR will be supported on the PS5.
Yes.
Nice.
But not that I'm too excited. I would like to see an updated headset.
Yeah.
Because the OG VR headset, there are a lot of engineering bugs, and it's so the cable that comes off of the left side of the headset, right there you get a short because it hard 90s down to the ground where it actually makes that connection to the adapter for the HDMI cables. And you'll get a short right there, and then the headset is inoperable because you won't get any video feed from the HDMI cables.
All bad things.
Right? So
You gotta
an
have
update.
natural.
Yeah, exactly.
Natural breaks.
An update to the engineering on it would be nice, or a spliced in connection that you could make where you could replace individual segments of the cable other than 6 feet down from the headset.
They should do the Matrix plugin.
Yeah,
right to the back of the skull. Mm-hmm.
That was also kicking it back to another conversation we had on the PlayStation 19. If you revisit that one, it's a straight plug-in to the back of the head. So
I made a comment on when is Sony going to steer away from numbering their systems, because at some point, I mean, we're just how relevant or intrigued are you going to be when you hear Sony PlayStation 27? Like really? And then he said, well, no, it stops at 19. And he said, yeah, there's a trailer about it.
It's actually a trailer for the PlayStation 19.
The Apple 10, Apple iPhone 10.
That does exist.
I know,
have one.
And they're getting more and more ridiculous numbers. There's going to be a time where it's just be like,
no, that's true too. You bring a good point, Nick. Yeah, iPhone 58. I mean, what are we going to get to before we decide to call it something else?
Okay, but anyway, so that was my spiel on Walking Dead, Sinners and Saints. It looks amazing. If you go give the trailer a shot, check it out. Don't give what I said to the trailer.
So is this something we would plug into the show? Like trailer?
What's that?
I mean, I'll put a link
Sure.
in the description for it.
Okay.
Yeah, there
Yep.
you go. Link in the description.
Link in the
But
description right now if you guys
the-
want to pause the video.
the trailer actually looks pretty badass. I'm not gonna lie, it made me stop. And
And
there's
think.
been a few trailers that have made me actually stop what I was doing and watch it. And this was one of them.
Because unlike most people that actually look up trailers to watch, you do everything in tandem. So occasionally you just see stuff in the background.
Yeah.
So guys, moving on through coming out of gaming news, I just got a couple little side things I wanted to cover and then a brief breakdown on some things. So I have a quick little note on Marvel news that I thought was interesting. So our dear Kevin Feige, the head of the creative lead for all MCU movies, recently got, I won't say a pay raise, but I would imagine so with the title that he's been given. It says here that Marvel Studios president Kevin Feige adds Marvel Chief Creative Officer to his title, as he will now oversee all creative and story initiatives covering everything from the films to the TV series that are going to be on Disney Plus come November 12th. So crazy, interesting, just some general thoughts. Not much more to say about that other than I think this just pushes forward the idea of how we were talking before, Lynn, how like you're going to get Disney Plus no matter what because your family is going to want it, but you're like how much am I going to have to watch of these series to stay connected and know what's going on between the movies and shows? That's where I was going. And
Okay,
I think the announcement of him now being the head of both of these things means that they're going to be more interconnected than we ever expected them to be. For me, I'm all the more excited to see the live action series that spin off on Disney Plus while continuing to check out the movies as they come out. So for me, this is cool. Congratulations to him. Thoughts?
What I'm most excited for on the Disney Plus is all of the Star Wars shit. Did you see that giant catalog?
Way to
All
veer
the
off
Star
topic,
Wars.
Lynn. Good lord. We're talking about Kevin Feige. He is
Hail.
not. On a side note, I don't have all the deets, but he is in talks to produce a Star Wars film, actually. Don't know anything about it yet, but that's been thrown out there onto the internet.
After the last, after number 9.
Yeah, after Rise of Skywalker. So we'll see what comes out of that. But Nick, thoughts on Kevin Feige running everything Marvel?
It was inevitable. He's been doing such a good job at it. And they need to figure it out under one roof so that they can make sure that it all runs smoothly. Because
Feige dictatorship.
Well, he's not steering anything wrong yet, so
they call old medieval kingdoms and small things fiefdoms. So this is going to be a feigdom.
Oh dear. Oh dear. Way to spin that one.
Yeah.
Okay, if I'm getting back on topic here, what I have to say about this is he's getting the recognition that he deserves for things that he's already done in the past.
Agreed. Yeah.
No, it's just I would definitely say that it makes sense.
There you go. It feels right.
Well, like if you're making something that's going to be in the same universe, it would make sense to have it all collaborate under one kind of director and direction so that you can make sure they all come together smoothly. Because if we want another, with how much stuff they're adding to Marvel and wanting to be part of the Marvel universe, the cinematic universe, they need to reel it in because they just acquired so much that they're going to try to add. And if they don't have a creative mind kind of overseeing the whole thing, it's going to get out of control. We just got Fantastic Four, X-Men, Deadpool, all that. Everyone thinks, oh, that's just three IPs. Yeah, it's
Massive.
3 IPs. Massive IPs.
I think there's like over 300 plus characters just from the X-Men side of things alone.
I think there's a lot more than that.
I'm just generalizing. I'm not being specific, Nick.
Yeah.
I wasn't looking for details on that at this point in time. We're not discussing the ramifications of how deep they may go down this rabbit hole, but it will be deep. So far, DC Universe has continued mild successes with Titan Season 2 taking off at a good pace. I'm behind on it. They're up to episode 6 now, so I haven't dove back into it. I'm currently binging all the CW crap in light of Crisis on Infinite Earths. I'll talk to Nick about that during some of our review moments later on in the episode. But the big one right now that's coming to DC Universe soon, and it's actually a lot different of a series than initially expected. I think initial quotes for what the Harley Quinn adult animated series was going to be was some sort of mix mashup comedy thing, some kind of weird talk show thing. I don't know what they were thinking, because what came out of New York Comic Con this past month, was they actually screened the pilot episode for it, and nothing but like rave reviews, excellent responses from fans. So I didn't bullet point this, but I was gonna read a couple paragraphs from this article coming out of fandom.com regarding the Harley Quinn DC Universe animated series, and just kind of what we know up to this point of what it will have in it and what we can expect. So this November, DC Universe launches its newest series, and as the animated Harley Quinn premieres. The 26 episode season, broken up into 2 distinct 13 episode arcs. They said here that if the first episode, which was screened for fans at the New York Comic Con this past weekend, is any indication, the theme of the series is irreverence for days. The premiere provides the how and why Harley decides she is done with the Joker, as we also meet her BFF, Poison Ivy, and her pet plant, Frank. Batman and Commissioner Gordon are also introduced in ways you may not expect, and there are appearances by the likes of Calendar Man and the Riddler.
Nice.
For those wondering if this show was something the whole family can enjoy together, the answer is yes, if your family is all 18 and over. While this is an animated program, it's for mature audiences, and DC makes sure viewers know it from the start. In the series, Harley, voiced by Kaylee Cuoco, I think that's how you say her last name, from The Big Bang Theory. We are able to get some answers at NYCC when we sat down with producer Justin Halpern and Patrick Schumacher to talk all things Harley. Now, I'll cut this down if it gets too wordy. I just kind of want to read through this because I think it's kind of important to know some of this stuff, and then we can discuss regarding where is Harley headed. After years of being the right hand of the Clown Prince of Crime, Harley is finally making her way on her own with some help from her BFF Poison Ivy, voiced by Lake Bell. At first, she has some lofty goals. There are a couple of threads running through the first season, said Schumacher. After seeing Joker in the spotlight for so long, getting a chair in the Legion of Doom is a tangible goal for her. We play a lot with the glass ceiling and how it's not just a thing in corporate America, but super villainy as well. Halpern added, her journey is an important theme of the show. You break up with someone and you think you're out there discovering your path, but are you just doing something to show everyone else how great you're doing? And is that exactly what you want? Towards the end of the season, it's a big question. There will be a handful of cameos in this series. Batman, not the least of which, will show up at one point or another. And other people from the Bat family will make appearances. Right here we've got Poison Ivy won't be the only member of Harley's crew in her quest to be taken seriously. Clayface, voiced by Alan Tudyk, who's pulling double duty as he also voices the Joker. I actually heard a sampling of him voicing it, and it's not bad. Bane will be voiced by James Adomian, and Kite Man will have integral parts on the show, the later two growing on the producers as the writing on the series progressed. Kite Man and Bane have bigger roles than originally intended, said Schumacher. The ridiculousness of Bane going from destroying Gotham Stadium to fighting Todd at Jamba Juice was hilarious to us, added Halpern. As far as the tone of this show, guys, if Harley Quinn were a movie, it would be rated R. There's profanity, there's violence, there's profane violence, and it works. Make the show you want to make. It's easier for them to pull us back than it is to put restraints on from the beginning, said Halpern, regarding how easy it was to work with DC on this project. The one thing DC said was to not soil the good name of our heroes. There's a difference between self-parody and ruining the reputation of characters you care about deeply. And in conclusion, it says, one thing fans will notice that Kaylee Kauko's voice work on the show as Harley is different from previous iterations of the character. For one, she no longer has a thick New York accent. Kaylee was familiar with with Harleys of the past, said Schumacher. She wanted to do something different while still maintaining the manic personality of Harley. Fan needn't worry, though. She still calls Joker Puddin' and Mr. J. Some things you need to leave untouched. And that's the conclusion of that article. I'm pretty excited to see this series. I'm pretty excited to see a dark take on it, and it sounds like there's going to be a mix of humor in it as well. Nick, being such a canon fodder fan, pardon the pun, how are your feelings on what they're trying to do with this? And you can be brutally honest. I know you always are when it comes to DC.
Just to start out, I get kind of leery when they have an animated Joker that's not voiced by Mark Hamill.
Yes. I don't think any of us disagree with that.
Certain things they mess up in live action just for the sake of budgetary restrictions. You can get away with a lot more in animated movies.
Right.
And shows. And DC has a history of doing their animated very well. It's one thing that we can all agree on that they do very well.
Yeah, I've always enjoyed just like the integrity and the freedom that they put into their animated stuff.
Yeah, and just looking through
just
looking through the list of all the people they have playing in this, they got some powerhouse people that are going to be voicing a lot of these people. And it just makes me excited for what they could do with it. And I'm completely okay with Harley Quinn not having a thick New York accent. If you've watched some of the older stuff, she didn't always have the New York accent. It was actually part of her mental break into becoming Harley Quinn instead of psychiatrist Harley Quinzel.
Right. And guys, I'll put an additional link in our episode description of the trailer for this, because they did put out a full trailer, and you see Kaylee's voice work in full form here, and it was different, but it didn't bother me at all listening to it.
Yeah, no, I don't have any criticism yet, which I know shocks you completely. But
well, to be fair, you probably haven't seen the trailer for this, have you?
I haven't. I watched it while you were talking about it.
Were you able to hear it?
Yeah, I turned it down really low.
Okay, all right. Well, so that immediately is a plus, because when you and Matt watched the trailer for Titan Season 1, both of you nearly threw up in your mouths as you watched it. Not to open that wound. We don't need to talk about that. Anyone listening to us longer than the last few months have heard our comments about it as a group. But that's promising is what I'm saying, having seen the trailer for this and not feeling openly critical about any of it yet. That's
yeah.
good sign to me. I know. Yeah.
Kaylee Kuko has had some issues with the media lately, but that shouldn't come across. It's personal life. I don't know why people let that come across and start like freaking out on people.
I don't want to open up this discussion. I just want to add a note to that comment, Nick, that I agree on that note that it's frustrating when people really close to me whose opinions I value are struck so harshly by the personal lives of the artists involved. Small example, I'm not trying to throw anyone I love under the bus, but there's an individual in my life that hates Nicolas Cage and hates Tom Cruise, and a lot of it's because of them in real life. And I won't say who feels that way, but I enjoy those actors for the roles they play, not the people they are outside of cinema.
Yeah, no,
You know
I
what I mean?
completely agree. Like, I've personally met Pierce Brosnan, and he is one of the most asshole of peoples I've ever met in my entire life. But I love him as an actor, and I can get over that.
Nice. Don't want to forsake the opinions of our other member here, but let's pass it over to Lynn real quick about the Harley Quinn series.
Lynn,
how do you feel about it, sir? What are your thoughts?
I am always excited for something Harley Quinn or Joker. This is
just don't make the mistake of having your 6-year-old watch it with you.
Yeah, I won't do that like I did with Titans.
Yeah.
That was a bad idea. The first episode of Titans was a big epic fail. But I did. What's that?
Oh, nothing. Let's say
Go on.
they have some voices in this that are going to be exciting.
Yeah.
Like SpongeBob.
Right? Jason Alexander.
Mm-hmm.
Any other thoughts aside from bad parenting choices?
Yeah. I will be indulging in this on my own, and it looks good.
Good call. Good call.
No, like I say that they've been doing really good on their animated movies. On Hulu, it just came across for me, and I watched it the other day. Batman's Killing Joke movie, dude.
I've watched it. It's dark. Oh man,
And
it's dark.
It was so close to the comic book. They did really good.
I love how like openly honest and authentic they can be with their animated stuff. They don't even have to, budgetary reasons, actors. They don't have to deal with the live action side of it, and they can be so much closer to the comics when they do that stuff.
Yeah, and we're talking about DC Universe, and you were talking about Arrow just a little bit ago. I know this is off topic, but there has been sightings of someone on the set during filming for the Crisis stuff that makes people wonder. Lucifer has been seen in character.
Oh, whoa! From the
around
show?
the Crisis people.
Think
about it though. Lucifer was actually based off the DC Comics character.
Wasn't he put out by that subsidiary Vertigo, like the dark side of DC?
Yes, but he's been tied in directly with the DC universe.
Right. Interesting. Dude, that every week I see a new article saying, "Hey, so and so got added to the cast for that," and I just, as we get closer, I'm gonna try to round up all the articles we found and have a separate discussion with you, Nick, because we don't have time to unfurl that beast in this episode. But we will.
It's gonna be sexy though.
Dude, at the top of our show, off air, I was talking to Lynn about how Michael Rosenbaum turned down the role, the offer, and I understand he explained it in a tweet, and I get it. He's not just a busy guy, but he needs to know what he's getting into, and he needs to know if it's gonna keep paying his bills. You know what I mean? And
Oh, yeah.
they wouldn't tell him what his role would be, how long his character would be in it at all. There were no story points, and they weren't gonna tell him how much they were gonna pay him either. And so he just professionally declined the offer of coming back as Lex Luthor. It saddens me
It's all right
greatly.
though.
I know. There's plenty of people coming in, and Tom Welling and Erica Durance are coming back as Clark and Lois. So I don't know if he's going to don the suit. It's still up in the air as to whether or not he's going to.
I actually think it would be kind of cool for them to have the Green Arrow now meet the Emerald Archer from the Smallville show.
Yeah, I know that. God, I forget his name. He's now currently on This Is Us, that drama series, which is doing really well.
Mhm.
Hartman.
Mhm.
I think Justin Hartman. I would love to see him, make an appearance as the Smallville's Green Arrow. uh,
Well, we know Allison Mack can't. She's got some issues going on.
yeah, she's had some existential next level personal crisis of her own. We will not discuss the nature of her endeavors on this podcast. Let's just say, Lynn, if you're unaware, there's something involving cult-like activities and possible sex trafficking. We won't talk any more about it. But yeah, she's gotten herself wound up in some interesting life choices.
Sounds like a great Friday night.
Yeah, for someone. Guys, that is going to have to round out all the news that was worth our time sharing this week. As it's been a little light in news, and I just tried to pick things that piqued interest for us this time around. But we do have a couple things to review. So, guys,
Yes, we do.
I think now is a good time to jump into This Week in Review. All right, guys. First up on the docket for This Week in Review, two of us, me and Lynn, recently got to catch a view of It Chapter 2. I will just give you guys a brief description of who's involved and what it's about. Directed by Andy Muschietti and written by Gary Dauberman for the screenplay, adapted from the Stephen King novel of the same name. It stars such casting as Jessica Chastain, James McAvoy, Bill Hader. Freaking love me some Bill Hader. Isaiah Mustafa, Jay Ryan, James Ranson, Andy Bean, and of course, Bill Skarsgård reprising his role as the clown himself, Pennywise. Now, the cast I listed off were all the adult versions of the kids. For anyone not super familiar with it, it's the story of a group of children who are known as the Losers, or in this case, the Losers Club, as they all befriended each other. They were, over the course of their time together as children, were terrorized by this alien-based supernatural demon that came to them in the form of a clown, feeding off each of their own personal fears. In a witty case of bravery and fighting away this creature by fighting off their own fear, they seemingly were able to defeat him at the end of It Chapter 1. And just like the original series that was adapted back in the I want to say early 90s. It was originally made for TV miniseries broken up into 2 parts. So this story is not unfamiliar. We won't go into major spoilers, but guys, this is an older book and an older series that's just recently been remade, basically. Um, so it stops there, and the curse of Pennywise is that he always comes back roughly every 27 years to terrorize a new group of children, and in this case, he revisits these children as adults, and they have to combat their fears once again. Um, basically, that's the overall premise to this film. Now, the original took a lot of liberties. It stayed fairly close to the overall spirit and concept of the book, but there were obvious. Stephen King books are freaking massive. I think the unabridged version of the original It is 1,200 pages. I want to say it's over 1,000 pages, the unabridged version of the book. And anyone familiar with Stephen King will tell you he spends multiple paragraphs describing just singular scenes. So truthfully, the screenplay, just from dialogue alone, is probably 1/4 the length of the actual book, while the 3/4 of the rest of it is purely Stephen King painting you a picture. And if you're into long reads, he paints really detailed, vivid pictures. It really gives you a good idea of what you're seeing through his writing. The remakes here, I think, for me, I want to get your opinion, Lynn, and Nick has to sit this out because he made a promise to a certain ginger in our group who has a manic fear of this book and refuses to watch the remakes. Nick made a promise he wouldn't watch them until the ginger watched them, and so calling you out, Matthew.
So I'll never get to enjoy the movies.
You hear that?
He doesn't care enough to let me watch it.
Guilt, Matthew. We may still strap you down once it comes out on disc. We may still do that.
I have 6 rolls of duct tape on that shelf right there.
You know, I think we could. I think we'll do it. But anyway, back to the review at hand. Lynn, since you and me have both seen the first one, what was your overall rating? How much did you like the first one?
The first one, on a scale of what?
Let's say on a scale of 1 to 10, just going back old school rating, 10 being like a masterpiece,
Yeah,
5 being mediocre.
I'd give it a high 6, mid 7.
Really?
Yeah.
It didn't quite soar for you, huh?
They're
Did you see the original?
Yes, and certain things for it kind of got ruined by a significant other, and their opinions on it.
On a side note, dear listeners, this significant other is a major book geek and holds very dearly to the canon of said written material.
Like I was able to actually get through it. I enjoyed it. She couldn't get through it past a certain point, and that's where it ended. I mean, not that she was scared of it, just she didn't like it.
No, that's what we mean. Like, and dude, same here. My wife is also a massive stickler for certain things when it comes to, especially horror movies. My wife is a massive original It fan. She's read the book and watched the originals, and so her opinions were a little more scathing than mine. I truly enjoyed the first movie, but we're here to review It Chapter 2. And so what I will say, by and large, overall thoughts on It Chapter 2, I thought it was overall, for me, it was well paced. Cinematography was excellent. I think Pennywise wasn't in it as much as he was in the first one, but it still had a lot of classic moments. He took on some of the classic forms from the book that we didn't even see in the original miniseries. Pennywise is infamously known to have taken on this crab-like spider creature, which is described heavily in the book. And I don't think they did that at all in the original. And in this remake, they full blown went hardcore into really painting a lot of direct things from the book. For me, there were some deviations throughout that are, my wife would say, travesties and dramatic changes that took away from the spirit of the original story in her mind. And I can see where she's coming from, and because I've seen the original and I see some of the changes they made. Who was once a kind of leading the group, kind of took a back seat in the sequel, and where we had another character kind of take front and center through this was kind of interesting. But aside from all of that, some of the creepy moments were truly creepy and fun for me. Um, I would say the biggest complaint I've heard around the interwebs, and I kind of agree with it, is that the runtime on this movie is a bit on the extreme end. I think if they had stuck a little more concisely to what was going on and didn't try to Stephen King it with the length in his writing, I think this movie could have probably cut off about 40 minutes from its nearly 3-hour runtime. This movie came in at 2 hours and 49 minutes, 11 minutes shy of 3 hours. So, and for a horror movie genre, that's a little long. This isn't a Lord of the Rings fantasy, guys. So not a huge upset for me. And I didn't mind some of the differences that didn't match up with the original. I liked it, but I will say I liked it less than the first one. And sorry, I didn't give my rating on the first one. The first one, Lynn, I would give it a solid 8 for me. I truly did enjoy it. It wasn't a perfect film. It didn't really scare me at all, like I expected it to. The first one, and so comparing that, the second one, me liking it less. Unfortunately I'm gonna have to drop it to a low baseline 7 for number 2, almost a 6. So what were your overall thoughts on chapter 2, and then give me your rating.
So, chapter 2, certain things, like we talked about in the past, certain jokes felt forced, certain lines felt forced, but my opinion is being swayed by certain people. So, I did enjoy Bill Hader, like you do. I don't know, but I enjoyed McAvoy in it. And the female character did not feel like she was true to the persona of her character.
So we're talking about Beverly, the character Beverly, and Jessica Chastain portrayed the adult version of Beverly.
And up until a certain point, I felt like Matt was the lead. The one that brought them all back.
Yeah, that was Mike. Mikey brought him back, and that was played by Isaiah Mustafa.
Yeah.
I thought that was different. That was different than the original.
But kind of keeping it short and not spoilers, I will give it about the same as I gave the first one. A high 6, low 7.
Yeah, so we kind of overall we had the same experience. We had significant others deterring the overall experience for their thoughts, and then also it didn't pan out as good as the last one.
Bringing certain points to light, and it kind of just felt like a fan callback to something that's been done before.
Yeah.
But I will say with a new artistic taste on it. I'm trying to keep it short.
Yeah, absolutely, dude. Anyway, guys, that's gonna wrap up our It Chapter 2 review. All right, guys. For the last half of this review section, this Netflix original film called Fractured just came out on October 11th. It's listed as a thriller, definitely in the category of psychological thriller. It's directed by Brad Anderson. Brad Anderson's been a director and producer for things such as Session 9, The Machinist with Christian Bale, 2008's Trans-Siberian, among other things. It stars Sam Worthington from such films as Avatar, James Cameron's sci-fi pick, co-starring with Lily Rabe perhaps, as his wife, Lucy Capri as their young daughter, and a few other smaller named individuals playing the different side characters in this. The synopsis goes as this: a couple stops at a gas station where their 6-year-old daughter's arm is fractured. They hurry to a hospital, and something strange is going on there. Then the wife and daughter go missing. No spoilers there. All that's in the trailer if you guys click on it. It's there front and center under the listed featured films coming out this last week or two on Netflix. Nick, I'm going to pass it off to you first since I talk a lot. What were your overall thoughts on the movie, trying to minimize spoilers?
Yeah. No, they did a good job of keeping a pace that kept you on your toes, it felt. And it was definitely interesting seeing Sam Worthington doing a role like this. Because we're so used to him doing action flicks like Avatar or Clash of the Titans.
Terminator Salvation.
Terminator. Yeah. So we've seen him in all these action roles, but him to actually act was something different.
Definitely more drama driven.
Yeah. No, it was definitely it was a good movie. I enjoyed it. And I enjoyed his reactions and everything around him. His descent into the psychological thriller that this movie was intriguing. The suspense was best way I could describe it was taut enough to keep you wondering what the hell is going on.
Word. Do you got a general rating for this before I go?
I really liked it. I'm trying to remember so I don't contradict myself. What did I rate it on my ratings?
Oh yeah, we did a 1 through 5 on the quick shameless plug. We currently have a running list of horror, spooky, thriller themed reviews that Nick is pumping out for the whole month of October. So go to nerdentialsmedia.com. It's at the top of the page, guys. And if you want to check out some suggestions for spooky flicks this season. Yeah, what did you rate it?
I'm looking at it right now. I gave it a 4 out of 5.
Okay.
Because there was definitely some moments that didn't make sense to me. Is why I gave it the 4 out of 5. But like I said, though, the pacing of it kept you involved, and it was definitely worth watching. I liked it as what it was.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so yeah, I agree with a lot of what you're saying. I will up front say this, though, that in the first 10, 15 minutes, I definitely I've watched I'm sure we all have seen a lot of psychological thrillers. Um, so this film to me did not come off, even getting to the very end, looking at it as a whole, this movie did not come off as being super unique or super out there original. I want to say this was kind of a paint by numbers thriller, if we're being honest, especially when you see how it concludes. But I will say this, going into it, I'm a person that likes to be I like to go in mentally blank, even though it's a genre or a theme that I'm very familiar with. I like to just experience this piece of art as the directors and writers intended it and just kind of see it as it is. I I watched the minute and a half trailer. It was intriguing enough that I wanted to see, okay, are they going to do anything different? And I do feel like there were a few moments that they did that made it different enough where it caught me off guard a little bit in my assumptions. I think I can say that, where you go into it, you're like, oh, it's a paint by numbers. He's panicking about his situation. He thinks everyone's against him. It's a very A-B typical plot going on here. But then you start thinking things are not as they seem, and then you start wondering, okay, are they crazy? Or is he crazy? Is he not perceiving everything that happened? What's really going on? And
We're all crazy.
true, Lynn, true, we are all crazy.
Crazy.
But to get back to the mechanics of this thing, yeah, Sam Worthington, great performance by him. Um, you're right, we do see mostly action out of him, but I think he really displayed a decent amount of emotion just the sheer panic of where did his wife and daughter go. That's the whole premise of this film. Um, and then just the little, spoiler free here, guys. Don't worry, I'm not giving anything away, but just the clues that start unfolding about. We slowly start learning what kind of guy he is over, like his character starts unfolding as we're still seeing him go through this traumatic experience of where did my wife and kid go? They just went into the ER. He's been waiting for them to come out and they're not, and he's been waiting and suddenly no one knows where they went. Like, what is going on here? Um and there are a few moments, like I said, there are a few moments about 2/3 into it where you start questioning. You're like, okay, maybe he's not losing his mind. Maybe something really bad did happen to him. What is going on? And still, all the way to the end, it's. I thought it unfolded like entertainingly enough that I enjoyed it. It's worth a check out, guys. Um, the psychosis is there. The suspense is definitely there. I'm I'm going to probably agree with Nick. It's not a masterpiece. It's a paint by numbers. It's nothing super unique. I will give it a 4 out of 5 for that alone. In that it's just kind of it's Netflix pumping out another film. It's not as bad as some of the films they've put out, but it's worth a view. And if you already got Netflix, it's just a click away. That's all I got, guys. That's going to, I feel, wrap up our review on Fractured. Uh, Nick, I think it's a good segue now to have you dump out your couple TV shows that you've checked out. All right, unload, Nick. What do we got for TV shows?
First TV show on my list is going to be one me and my wife have started watching. It is called Stumptown. Stars How I Met Your Mother's Colby Smulders. And I forget the guy's name from New Girl.
Jake Johnson.
Thank you.
Jake Johnson from New Girl.
Mm-hmm.
He played Nick.
Yep. It's been very enjoyable. From the first 5 minutes of the first episode, you're hooked. And I quite literally turned to my wife and said, "Now that's the way to open a show."
Nick,
Uh,
for our listeners and viewers that are not familiar with the premise, could you give us a little idea on what it's about?
oh yeah. Um, the whole show is about a struggling vet, not animal vet, but a veteran of the military. She obviously is going through some emotional issues, but she pretty much was a person tracker in the military. She tracked down people and helped find people, um, like a bounty hunter type thing. But she uses her skills that she learned in the military and throughout her career to pretty much be an ad hoc private eye in this show. She obviously doesn't have her license to be a private eye, but she goes about doing it anyways and just carries her very unique charisma across everything. Anyone that has ever watched anything with Colby Smulders in it knows she has a very smart aleck way of reacting to everything, and she maintains this in the show, and it works beautifully. And it was fantastic. We're about 4 episodes in, and me and my wife are loving it. So
Nice.
So,
What did
direction?
you rate that, Nick?
so far it's
Yeah,
a
how
5 out
far?
of 5. It only has 4 episodes so far. It's
Oh,
on
okay.
ABC. And me and my wife are started watching it, and we're enjoying it.
Nice.
But here's the thing: me and my wife have always loved those crime television shows like NCIS, The Finder, Bones,
Have you ever checked?
Blacklist.
Have you ever checked out HBO's True Crime
I haven't.
or True Detective?
I haven't.
Sorry, it's an anthology series. I hear good things about that one.
Okay.
On a side note.
But yeah.
Nice.
It's
Nice.
definitely a show I would recommend watching. And like I said, within the first 5 minutes, you're like, okay, let's see where this goes.
Right.
But yeah, it's definitely a good show. And I just like watching Colby Smulders in TV shows because she's a great actress.
She is. She can also be found in a lot of the Avengers films, co-piloting next to Nick Fury, Samuel L. Jackson.
And as Robin in How I
Shabbat.
Met Your Mother.
Yes, you mentioned that at the top of your review. Nice.
And right now, it actually has a 94% approval rating on Rotten Tomatoes.
Good stuff. Good stuff, man. What else you got in the review docket, sir?
My next show that I would like to review, also one that I just started. I haven't gotten very far into it, but it is intriguing for other reasons. I am a fan already. The show I'm talking about is Netflix Originals, Living with Yourself.
Oh, starring.
It stars Paul Rudd and Paul Rudd.
Paul Rudd and himself.
Yes.
And Paul Rudd.
It's been claimed by multiple critics. This is a show only Paul Rudd could do. The way it's portrayed and the way he does it is very refreshing. The Netflix synopsis for Living with Yourself is: burned out on life, Miles undergoes a strange procedure at a strip mall spa and wakes up to find out he's been replaced by a better version of himself.
That sums it up pretty nicely.
Quite literally, he is replaced with a smarter, funnier, more charismatic version of himself. and everything that comes along with it is just hilarious. The way they open up the show, you're instantly intrigued, thinking, "Okay, what the hell just happened?" I won't try to give it away. I'm trying to do this without being a spoiler, because it's a great show. Paul Rudd has a very charismatic approach whenever he takes a role, and I've always loved the way he takes on roles. He's a likable guy, and just watching him be this downtrodden, burned out person is kind of different than what you would think when you think of his other roles that he's played.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's interesting. And it's even interesting trying to
Explain why it's
spoiler-free
interesting.
explanations. I'm not good at this, but no,
How many
it
episodes
has,
in?
how many episodes am I in?
Mm-hmm.
Me and the wife are 3 episodes in. We
And
started
how is it? Is it all? Where are you watching it at? Where's
it is a Netflix
Oh,
original.
Netflix.
It
Oh,
is
so is
on Netflix,
whole season's out?
and the whole season is out. I'm trying to see how many episodes there are.
Looks like 8.
Yeah, 8 episodes.
Nice. That is not bad. What is it? A half-hour comedy drama
Yeah,
or
roughly half hour. Yeah.
nice? What do you give this for a rating, sir?
5 out of 5, hands down.
Nice. I will add it to my
I
list.
like these witty comedies, and this would definitely be a witty, dark comedy that is very drama and emotionally driven. And I don't know who to root for yet.
Well, this season is trending on Netflix currently, so it's definitely at the top of the list there under trending. I just added it to my personal list.
Please do. It was definitely worth watching.
This is an easy watch too, being a half-hour sitcom essentially. It's not too hard to get through. Nice. Very nice. Is there anything else before we wrap up? Any honorable mentions from anyone? I at the moment have to hold off because it would involve a lot more discussion. Best left for another episode. I'm referring to my CW binge fest right now, and guys, I am flying through a lot of it. Not as fast as I'd like to be flying, but that's kind of my main focus currently in these weeks. But burning through the Arrow and the Flash, and soon to be Supergirl and Legends of Tomorrow following up after that. And I'm trying to watch them in sequential order, or at least during the crossover episodes. I'm trying to keep in step with some of them so I can kind of see them unfold as they would have aired chronologically, and I'm having fun doing that. But yeah, oh, and the smaller, again, I'm gonna wrap up here, but the little Easter eggs that they pepper in throughout the episodes, like I'll be watching an episode of The Flash, and in the precinct there'll be the newscast talking about and Oliver Queen speaking for his mayoral political campaign, which is exactly at that time in season 2 is what's happening in season 4 of the Arrow. And it's just, there is one little statement on a newscast bringing up Oliver Queen on the Flash episode, and I like when they insert little things like that back and forth. It's making me get more and more invested in the shows. And right now it is heavy, and I know I'm like half the series of each of these shows behind. So we'll go into any other details about them because I know some people are all caught up, and maybe some out there like me are not caught up. So I'll not give you guys time. It's all on Netflix. Anyone that wants to kind of get in on that, we will be covering the massive crossover in December. So a little heads up to our listeners. We'll come back to those topics later, Nick.
Yeah, no, I have a lot of stuff for those when we do.
I'm excited to hear those details as well as find my own details in this. Lynn, you look like you're fading, brother, and I think it's time.
Yeah.
I know you've had a long week. You mentioned.
What is it? 2 hours. I'll be up for 2 days straight now.
Yeah, you need to pass the F out as soon as we end this. Guys, this has been Nerdentials Podcast episode 72. Thank you for joining us. We hope you've had as much fun listening as we have had talking. Guys, go to nerdentialsmedia.com. Like I said at the top of our show. Thank you, Nicholas. Always appreciate that little echo. But that's going to do it. This has been your Nerdy Essentials, my friends. For me, Nick and Lynn, as always, nerds, we'll see you
on the other
side. Solid on my side. That was perfect. I delayed it. You guys just go for it, and I'll follow through.